Hello and welcome to the JM Academy. My name's Alison Tarry and today we're going to be looking at a seed bead technique called Cellini. It's very often related to spirals. We'll do some spiral work today, but we'll also do some flat Cellini. So what are you going to need when you start Cellini spiraling? You're going to need some seed beads. Traditionally, you can vary the seed beads you want, and we have got a variation in this tutorial, but generally you'd have number 15s, number 11s, number 8s and number 6s all together within your one project. There are variations you can do within that, but as a starting place, that's where you want to be. Your needles, because you've got the 15s in there, you want to probably look at a 12. A finer one, I struggle with the finer ones, but if you want to use a finer one, then that's great. You're going to pass through each of the seed beads several times. So the smaller the seed bead, i.e. the bigger the number, so your 15s are the smallest ones, then the times that needle has to pass and it's still got thread in there, all the time it's getting more and more cramped. Therefore, a smaller needle, if you can, is better. Thread, bead weaving thread, I would recommend either a Wildfire or a FireLine, predominantly because they're pre-stretched and they're coated. So when you're passing through several times, a coated thread will encourage the needle to go past it, whereas an uncoated thread, you can split it and then you start fraying and then you lose the strength of it. Because it starts unraveling. So I would recommend either a Wildfire or a FireLine. You can do a £4, a £6. You can get away with an £8 or £10. £10 getting pretty big when you're going through the little beads. So I would recommend 6 or 4 is ideal, but you can get away with a bigger one if you're careful and don't yank it. As soon as you put too much pressure, these are glass beads, don't forget. So as soon as you put too much pressure on it, you risk, especially with the small ones, then you risk breaking them. It is repairable, but let's try not to do it. A good pair of scissors to cut your thread, and a mat to bead onto. You don't have to have a specific beading mat, you just need somewhere where all your beads aren't going to roll around and get lost. So something non-slip is ideal. And then a mandrel or a rolled up paper. This is just for the early stages to help you when you're holding it. It gives you something to hold on to rather than a little tube, a little circle of beads. So if you haven't got a metal mandrel, a knitting needle, things like that are great. It's got to be straight, not tapered. Then make one out of a rolled up piece of paper. So that's what you need to get going. And now we're going to have the next chapter. So in this chapter, we're going to have a quick review on the basic Cellini technique. So the spirals is where it all started. So we're gonna have a quick review of how to do that, which is all based on the peyote stitch, and then you'll be set up for all the ones to come. So, got my loaded needle. When you pick thread, I mean, I tend to do a double wingspan of thread. So I'll do a double wingspan and it's about 1.5 meters, 1.75 meters. But it depends what you're comfiest with. The more thread you have, the less times you have to add in and finish off. That's my reasoning. But it's not wrong to have a smaller amount. If you find you get it snagged and what have you, then you're better off starting with a smaller amount. So have a length of thread that's comfy for you. Maybe start with 1 meter and then work your way up. So we're going to start off, so Cellini spirals can have a vast range of different sizes. If we have a look at the examples, you can stretch this out. So these are similar, but you can actually stretch the difference between the corkscrew by adding more of the smaller gemstones. So, and you can have multicolours in there. So this is a basic. When you've learnt the basics, then play around with it till, you know, till the cows come home, basically. So we're going to start off with 5 of our 15s. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Then 2 of your 11s, 2 of your 8s, 2 of your 6s. Slide those down. Then I'm going to come back down the line. So I always lay them out in order so that I can just go up the line and then back down the line. So I've got my 6s. I'm going to come back down with the 8s and the 11s. Now we don't add double at the top or the bottom. So that's your basic starting line. Then we're going to go and knot them into our first circle. So we're going to fetch it round in a loop. Don't pull it really tight until you've done the second half, because what happens is the 15s have a habit of getting caught in the middle of the knot. So when you've pulled it down, then you can tighten it up together and you still get the same effect. You've got a loop of your thread. Now this is where your little mandrel comes in, because trying to hold that whilst it's doable, it's fiddly. So if you've got something you can use, like I say, it can be as easy as a piece of rolled up paper, or it can be a mandrel, anything like that. Now we're going to start, I've got the knot there. I never go from the first one, so I'm going to go in through that first 15. So now this is row 1 and row 2 of your peyote. So we're now starting to do row 3. So I'm going to pick up another 15, miss the next one and go into the one after that. So you're going every other, the same as you would with normal flat peyote, and you'll start to get this castellation where they go up and down. Okay, so when you're doing a Cellini, generally, when you're doing a spiral, whatever you've come out of, I've come out of a 15, that's the next bead to pick up. So I'm going to go back in, miss the next one and go back in through the next one, the one after that. There we go, make sure they're both on the same side. This row is always your fiddly row. So we came out of this 15, we're going to pick up another 15, miss the next bead, which is our first 11, and then we're going to go into that second 11. So this 15 is going to sit above the 11. And you can already see that's going to cause that to pull in. So we come out of an 11. So we're going to pick up an 11. We're going to miss that 8 and go in through the second 8. And because you're constantly moving one after another, what's happening is this is why you're getting the spiral. Now this version is odd count. I much prefer odd count peyote for various reasons, predominantly because you don't have to step up. So but we'll come to that later. So we've come out of an 8, we pick up an 8 and go through the 6 and pull, and you can see this will now feel quite tight on your mandrel. So we've come out of a 6, pick up a 6 and go through that next 8, and you can see this graduated line starting to happen. Pick up an 8, skip the next one, which is an 11, go through the second 11. Okay, we've come out of an 11, but we're right back at that start point now. Get you out of the way. So we're back at this start point. So we've come out of an 11, we want to pick up at 11. So because it's odd count, we don't have to step up, we're automatically going to go through now the sticky uppy ones. So we miss the first 15 and go through that one that's sticking up, the first sticky up one. And from now on, all you're going to be doing is going into the sticky up beads. So we've come out of a 15 and we're going to go through, pick up a 15 and go through that next one. There we go. Then we've come out of that next one and there, and come out of that last 15. This is how you remember if you've where you are. If you put this down, you'll remember where you are because you know which is the last bead you come out of. If you came, say I put a number 8 there, when I came round I'd know it's wrong, because you shouldn't be putting an 8 on top of an 8. You should be putting an 11 on top. So apart from the 15s, every other bead should sit on top of a different size bead. So unless you've duplicated them. So in the basic format, every time you come out of a bead, you pick up that same bead and it's going to sit on top of the next bead type. So you keep going round now, it becomes just a case of feeding each one through that next bead. And you can see, if you look at the way those 6s are going, which are the easiest way, you can already see that spiral starting to happen. Now what's happening here is these are getting tighter. So it sort of skews it so that you're getting that corkscrew effect. And that's what gives the Cellini spiral its effect, is the fact that it's using different bead sizes, which causes this this corkscrew effect. So that's your basic of your odd count peyote, your odd count Cellini and your odd count peyote. If you wanted to do this in the same size beads, then you would get a single tube and it would just be a peyote tube, which is another great rope to make, but obviously you're not getting that texture, that corkscrew effect. So each time you go round, you're doing this the same way. I'm going to take that off there and you'll see how this is getting tighter and this is still staying big. So what's happening is this will now start drawing in. It's quite loose at the moment because it's been restricted by the size of your mandrel. So if I do another row, you'll see that pull quite a way in. Let me get the end of the thread out of the way. But this is why we do it on a mandrel, because otherwise you've got to kind of hold it. I usually do about an inch before I take it off, but I want you to see the effect of that going on. So I'm on my 11, coming out of my 11 and going through that 8. Also what you find is, because you're going from a smaller bead to a bigger bead, the sticky up bead is not necessarily so obvious, because that 8 is almost the same height, the same level as that 6, but the sticky up one is that 8. So just be aware of that. You've come out of an 8, you're going to go through this one up here, and that will really, let me pull that tight. When I pull that tight, it cinches in. So the bead, you've got a bead at the bottom that's that wide, and then you're pulling it tight, so it's sort of tapering all the time, so that taper works its way around to give you the spiral. So that's how you do your odd count Cellini spiral. We're now going to have a quick look at the even count. What it says on the tin, there's an even number of beads. So in the odd count we had 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 on our first row, our first and second row. For this time we're going to start with 6. So we'll go 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. So I've already put the 6 little ones on. So we'll just add the 2. And the main difference is you will get to a point when you've done a row, you have a distinct row. So you do a row and then you have to step up to the next row. So we're going to do our little knot. Like I say, don't take it all the way, and then you can easily tighten it up without getting your little beads stuck. pop it on your little mandrel. Slide that on. So we're still in exactly the same position. We start by going through the first of your 15s, pick up the next one, skip one, go through the next one, pop it up, pick the next one up. Don't worry if they flip the wrong side. One. There he is. I think I first discovered odd peyote because I accidentally broke one and didn't notice, and then wondered why I wasn't stepping up because I was going round and round. So going through that last, where is it? There we go. So we're now on our last one and we're into our 11s. So I'm only going to do round once so I can show you the stepping up. So exactly the same principle, you're still doing your peyote, you're still putting your bead on top of the next size up, apart from your 15s. So we'll come out an 8, pick up another 8, come out of a 6, pick up another 6, come out of an 8, pick up another 8, come out of your 11, and then you're going to go in through that first. Come on. What can happen is you pull the knot into it, but you're going to go in through that first 15, sorry. And when you've gone in through the 15, you go straight up and out through that second one. So that gives you your step up onto the next row. And then you continue round till you get to that point again, and then you do the step up again. So each time you come round, you should find there's one next to it, and then you go into the one above. And that's how you do your step. If I show you here, you'd sort of, those would be the same size. You'd go in through that one, and then you'd go straight up through there. It would have been easier if I'd have started there to show you. So you go into that one, that's your last bead of the row, and then you're stepping up to the next row, and then you do the next one round. And that's how you do your even count Cellini. Now we're going to go on to the next chapter. So in this chapter, we're going to look at anti-clockwise or clockwise spirals. There is a reason for this, because we're going to look at reversing them in later chapters. So what do I mean by anti-clockwise or clockwise? You will, when you start doing Cellinis, you will naturally tend to do them in one direction, depending on whether you're left or right-handed. It will come easier to you to do one way than it will be to do the other. So these two here, one is anti-clockwise and one is clockwise. So if I fetch those closer, I can show you what I mean by looking at them. I'm going to open them up. So if you look at the spirals, you can see one's going at an angle like that, the other one's going at an angle like that. So they're doing they're opposite angles, and that's because one's going clockwise and one's going anti-clockwise. So if we look down the barrel of it, So if I turn that to the overheads, you can see this one is going anti-clockwise. If you follow the big beads, they're going the wrong way round, they're going anti-clockwise. And it doesn't matter which way up you hold it, it's still doing anti-clockwise. Whereas this one, which has got more of a taper on it, but you can still see if you track the bigger beads, it's still going clockwise round. And likewise, again, it's still going clockwise. So does it make a difference? Generally, no. If you're just going to do a Cellini spiral, it makes no difference whether you've got an anti-clockwise, clockwise, or some people call it left or right-handed spiral. It makes no difference. It's just your natural way of beading. So it doesn't matter. I'm quite lucky because I can do them both, and it doesn't worry me. When we go to do the reversing, you'll need to be able to do both. So I would suggest you practice, have a look at which way you've done one, do one automatically without thinking about it, or if you've already got some Cellini spirals created, have a look at them and see which way you normally bead, and then I'll show you how to do the opposite one. I'll show you how to do both directions. What we've done so far has been anti-clockwise. So I'm going to pop these back, and then we'll have a look at how do we make it go one way or the other. So it's all down to how you start off your spiral. So I always start from the knot and I work my way round the beads. So yes, on these spirals, they were going in an anti-clockwise direction. These were always tapering up like that from bottom left up to top right. That's because I've started with my section of 15s on the right, and I've started at the left of those and worked my way round. If I turn that around the other way and actually go that way round, I'll create a clockwise direction. So basically, if you put them on there and you move, you put it on and you start beading and you're going in a clockwise direction, then you're going to get a clockwise spiral. If you turn that over and you start and do it that way, you're going to get an anti-clockwise spiral. So I'm going to show you with a clockwise spiral. Like I say, for some people, it doesn't matter to me which way round I'll do it. I can turn it round and bead in the opposite direction. Some people automatically do it one particular way, and that will be generally down to whether you're right or left-handed. I'm just going to pop a needle on the end of this. That's the hardest bit of your seed beading done, threading your needle. And just the same as we did in the recap, we're going to go through our first one, pick up our bead, skip one, go into the next one, doesn't matter whether it's odd or even count, it's the same, you'll still get left and right handed corkscrews. Let's pick up that next last 15. So if you're doing it odd and you've started with 5 beads, each row you should be putting 3 beads on, and if you've started with even count, you're still putting your 3 on. If you then went to 7 instead of 5, then you'd go up to 4 beads. So a way to remember how many you've got, and a good check, because the small beads are the ones you're likely to lose your place at, is to count. So I'm going to grab one of those others in a second and I'll show you how you can check. So I'm just going round, and you can see I tend to hold it slightly different. So I hold it vertically when I'm going to the right, I hold it horizontally when I'm going to the left. That's because I'm using my right hand. You might find if you're left-handed, you do it in the other way. There's no right or wrong on how to do it. It's just what's comfiest for you. The big thing is you need to be consistent. And when you pick it up, what I found with students is sometimes they'll pick it up and they're turning and they're doing it in the other direction. So you won't get a consistent spiral if you swap and change. So always be aware of which way round. If you're not convinced you'll remember or do it automatically, then just put a little arrow around your bit of paper or on your mandrel. So that's then going to go into there. Pick up one of those. And another one of those. 1, 2. So each time round I should be doing 3. That's each one of the sticky uppies, you actually add on another one. Okay. So you can see now this is going this direction up. I'm going to do another little bit and then I'll fetch the other one in to give you the comparison. I say there's no right or wrong. There's no one way's better than the other. They're just slightly different. One will corkscrew one way and one will corkscrew the other way. And there is, you know, you will have a natural spiral. So I would say until you need to reverse it, go with the way you are, get comfortable with doing Cellini's, and then worry about doing the other way. There we go. Let's get back round to there. So this is not the fastest of seed bead techniques you'll ever do. It is quite time intensive, but it is very, very, very effective. I think it's one of the more flamboyant stitches, if you like. But don't think you're going to be doing a 20-inch necklace in an evening, because it takes quite a while. It's a great project for taking on holiday. You know, if you don't want to take lots and lots of little projects, then take one Cellini and it'll keep you going. Right, that should give you an idea of the spiral. So you can see there that the spiral is going in that direction, and if I grab the one we did earlier and see if I can get it back on here, you can see they're going in two opposite directions, and that's your clockwise and your anti-clockwise Cellini spirals. So to finish your spirals off, we covered that in the introduction, and I'm going to pull one of these again, is you can taper it down. On here I've just lost the shape beads. It doesn't have to be a 6/0, it can be any one of the shape beads, pretty much will fit if they've got a side-to-side drill. They work great. They give you extra texture or a different feel, but they're both, but that's your 6s and that's one of the other shape beads. But you want to taper the end, and there's a couple of ways of doing it, but basically you're losing beads. So on this one I've lost my 6/0, closed them up, and then I've just continued in the 11s. With this one I've actually lost the top bit and then carried on the spiral and finished it off at the end. So there's a couple of different ways you can finish them to make your bracelet, but they're really, really, really effective. So now we're going to go on to the next chapter. In this chapter, we're going to look at how you reverse your Cellini. So this is odd count. Even count slightly different because you've got the step up. You can reverse on the step up, so it becomes a lot easier. Instead of going forward, you just come backwards. In odd count, because it's a continuous spiral, we've got to do a little a little jiggle, shall we say. So what we do, I've gone round to the end of my row. Now, I know it's the end of the row because I started at the very beginning with the 15s, and it doesn't matter really which direction you're going in, clockwise or anti-clockwise. If you've always started, as long as you know where you've started, I've cut the tail off this one, but you'll know from where your tail is, your start tail, then you know where you've got to go. So I'm at the start of my 15s. I've just added my last 11-0, so I've gone through my first 15 sticky uppy. So I'm going to pick up a 15, but I'm going to change direction. So I'm going to go back through that 11. Let me just pull that. Okay, so now instead of all the time there just being 3, and I think I mentioned earlier, I'd show you how you could tell. And each one of these vertical columns, if you like, you always have 3 of your 15s. If you've started with 5, you will always have 3 going across there. The same with 6. So that's how you can tell where you're going. So now at this point we've got 4. So I've come, same principle. We're doing exactly the same thing. You've come out of your 11 and you're going to go in through your 8. So we've got only 1. So whereas before we were doing 15s and then carrying on the row, that was a start, we've now done 1 15. We've got to come back round to those. So we've gone through our 8. We're going to pick up an 8, go through the 6, pick up a 6 and go through the 8. So you can see now each of these should have 2. So we've got 2 of our 11s, 2 of our 8s, 2 of our 6s. So we've got this point happening already. Then we're going to go back down the sizes. So we're still going to have 2. So just think whatever you've come out of. So you've got 2 there. You've come out of an 11, pick up an 11. So we're still going to go into there. Now you're going to have a little gap where we turned around. So I'm going to pick up a 15, go through my 15. So that's 1. We know we need 3. We know we've already got 1 on that we started the reverse with. And then we've got, can you see this bigger gap than you would normally have? So we're actually just going to go straight from here, jump across that gap, and then we're back to continuously spiraling. It does mean you will have a tiny little gap in there when you've finished adding on your spiral. So we're going to go straight across to that one. So that's 2. We now need to add another one on. So that's our 3rd one. And then we're going out of our 11 into our 8. Out of our 8 into, whoops, only 1. Into our 6. And now they're starting to diverge as they go in opposite directions. I'm going to pick up our 8 again, go through our 11. So now we're coming across. So we've got, these will sit funny because you've had that one that sat in that bigger gap. You've got to make sure that you pick it up because it's now lower than that one. It doesn't look like a sticky uppy, but it is. So we've come out of our 11. We want an 11 and we're going to go through our first 15. Okay, so we're going to come out of our 15, pick up a 15. So if in doubt, miss one, pick up the next one. And this will pull them back into shape. So we're going to go into that and you can see that tiny little gap form. Pick up the next one, go through there. And then pick up the last one. And they're now starting to sit correctly. But you've got that little gap. We'll do one more round. But you can see now where this spiral's going. So we've come out of this 11, pick up an 8, out of the 8, pick up the 6, out of the 6, pick up the 8, but you can see the effect you're getting, really, whether you're going to do one like I've done on those necklaces, or whether you're going to constantly chop and change it. I would suggest you do one for a while, get used to them, because they can be quite confusing until you get used to the way you do them. So now we've got to do our 3. So that's the end of our row now, and we're going to do 3. 1, 2, 3, and back through to that 11. So you can see you get this little gap forms there, unless you have that pointing forward, in which case you miss all the texture of the reverse. You're never going to see it, because most of the time that's the bit you want to see as it reverses. So everything that's on this diagonal has now got to go that diagonal. So you're getting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You'll have 6 coming across here before your spiral's completed, and that gives you the wider bit of white. If I grab this one, you can see where that silver has gone open, and then you've got that tiny little gap to get this spiral happening. But like I said, what everyone wants is that effect, or even that effect, without, you know, they're not interested in that bit really. But even so, it's not horrendous, it's not a bad effect, it's a tiny little one, and that's because you've got the odd count, which is making that little bit of a difference. So that's how you do your reversing. Say the even is just a case of changing on your step up, so that's a lot easier to do, and that's how you do your reversing Cellini. We'll now go on to the next chapter. In this chapter, we're going to have a look at something a little bit different. We're going on to flat Cellini. So some people say flat Cellini spiral. It's not a spiral anymore. So what's flat Cellini? It's kind of what it says on the tin. It's not flat. So if you have a look at the purpley one here, what it is, you're working flat peyote, but you're working with different sizes. The different sizes is what gives you the Cellini effect. So if I lift this off here, you'll see that it's not round all the way round. It's actually only half of a Cellini effectively, and that you can make it into a bangle because there's a little bit of give that you can use to slip on. So you can make it into a nice bangle. You can also put a clasp on it. That's absolutely fine. But I just like it. I really like the effect you have of just having it. Let's pop that. There we go. Of just having it straight, so there's no seam. It's peyote. It meshes into itself, and I think it looks great like that. And also, if you have anyone who's allergic to metals, this is the perfect answer, because there's no metals in it at all. It's just glass beads and beading thread. So anyone who's allergic to metals can wear this kind of jewellery, which is lovely. So what's the difference? Apart from the fact that you're not going round in a circle, so you're going backwards and forwards. So you can do it with odd count peyote. However, odd count peyote, you have to do the little zigzaggy bit at the end, the little shuffle with your thread. Even count peyote is just turn around and keep going. So I tend to always do these as an even count peyote. It just makes life easier. You can do your reversing. We'll have a look at that in the next chapter. So it just works very easily with even count peyote, but you've still got that graduation. When you've put your beads on, the difference is when you're going one direction, it's what bead you've come out of is the next bead you're going to pick up. When you're going in the other direction, it's what bead you come into, that's the bead you need to pick up. So one's going one way, the other's coming back down. You can set these out double and actually do that if you want, and have one going one way and one going the other way. So we want to have this first one, we want this ridge coming this way. Okay, so our first one is going to be our 8, and then we're going to go in through the 6. Now we're going towards the tail, so keep in mind when we're going towards the tail, what we've come out of is what we're going to pick up. So we've come out of a 6, pick up a 6, go into that 8. You'll know it's the right way, because if you don't do it the right way, you won't get that diagonal next to each other. Okay, so we've come out of an 8, we're going to pick up an 8, skip the next one and go through that 11. Come out of the 11, so we're going to pick up an 11, miss the next one, go in through that next one. So we've come out of a 15, we're going to pick up a 15. Now we should do this 3 times, and we're going to go in through that 15 twice. Sorry, we're graduating down. We're going to pick up the 15 and go in through that next 15. So we've got to the end. We should have a graduating number. It works the same as with the spiral. So if I pull this one over here, you can see when you're doing the columns, you've got 3 each time. When you get towards the end, you go 3, 2, 1. But at the end, you've always got that 3 on the end. So wherever you're going across, whenever you've got those left to right columns, I know it sounds weird, but it is a column rather than your row, you should always have 3 in each one. So that's an easy way to remember and to check that you haven't missed one or gone wrong. So when you turn round for the next row, because we're doing rows up and down, then this little corner will go to nothing as this graduates down, and then we just get the big bit coming through, the 6 O's coming through, and then we'll build up the 15s again. So I'm going to pick this back up. So we're now going away, so whatever one we're going into, going this way, so going away from the tail, you want the furthest one. That's a good way of remembering it. Away from the tail, the further bead is what you want. So pick up a 15, because your next furthest bead is the 15th. So pick up your 15, go through. Don't worry about the fact that it's curling round, because it will, because these beads are so much bigger. You see it more than on the Cellini spiral, because the spiral just kind of twists on itself. This forms ridges, so you'll see this curve a lot, and then when we come back down this side, that's when we pull it and you'll get the 3D. So our next furthest is going in through that 15, so we put on a 15. So now our next furthest is the 11, so we're going to pick up an 11 and go through that 11. So you'll see you're still getting these rows of beads. So we're going into an 8 next, pick up an 8. You're going into a 6, pick up a 6. So you can see those happening as you start doing it. So you're going into an 8, so you've picked up an 8. So we now need to jump round to the next row of beads we want, which is the 11s. So we're going to pick up an 11, turn the corner and go straight through that 8. We're now heading towards the tail, so we want the one we've just come out of, so we're going to pick up an 8 and go through the 6. Pick up a 6, go through the 8, an 8, go through the 11, pick up an 11. You'll notice I'm pulling it out of my hands. That's because I'm actually pulling the tension quite a lot. I want this to be firm. If it's not firm, you'll just get more thread and it'll just lie flat and there'll just be big gaps. So you want to keep a firm tension. We've come out of a 15, so we're going to pick up a 15 and we're going to turn around to the next row. So now we'll start to see, because when I pull this, you can see that one's a bit loose because it's got all this space to sit in. So now we'll start to pull it and this will start lifting up. So we're going to pick up, we're going away from the tail, so we want the furthest one from us, so we're going through that 15. If they get a bit loose like that, it's because you're going back through the bead you've just come out of. Just pull that one tight, hold them and push it back into shape. So you can now see we've got our 3, and then we're going to go carry on. So we actually have no more 15s to put on until we're the other side of the ridge. So we're just going to go carry on going up the row. There we go. Now you can see that sort of starting to pull. As I've pulled those tighter, it's starting to lift slightly, but they're starting to pull round. So when we go around the corner this time, we're going down to a 15, which is the next in the sequence. And I'm going to pull that tight again and pull that down. So you can see there, this is starting to get quite tight, not tight, pulled together. Because if I left it loose, it would sit like that. Well, we don't want this gap here. We want to be able to pull that, to pull it in a bit. And by pulling that in, I don't know whether you can see that sort of lifting up. So if I hold it that way up, can you see you're getting a little bit of a dome forming? I mean, this is quite a sharp, shall we say, crest, compared to others. And I'll show you a comparison in a moment. So I'm going to go finish this row. So we're getting to the bottom, and the last one is going to be our 11. I'm going to turn around that corner, pick up an 11, because that's the one that's next coming towards us. Make sure that's quite tight. So you can see these rows curling round, but this one's starting to snake, and that's because it's now got smaller beads either side, so the only way it's got to go is up. So I'm going to go into that 8, pick up a 6, into that 8. So now that, can you see that snake happening? And this is because of the sizes. So you look at the size difference in the beads, and that's all pulling it tighter. So we're going to go into that one and pull that a bit more, and then pop these little ones on the end. So we should build up to having, now we're getting, that's quite thick now. You can perhaps see it better that side. You've got the cup happening. I'm just going to do one more row to show you. Again, if you think it looks a bit slack, just give it that pull to keep it together, because it's a lot of tension. So I've come out of a 15, pick up a 15, then an 11. Then we've got our 8. And it seems a long way to go past that other 6. but then you pull that and it's come back in even more now, and you can see that really starting to curve. So we've got our 6 going on, and then our 8 at the end. So now our first one is going to be an 8, and you go back up. So you do that all the way around. So each time when you get to the end, when we've done all these, so you've got your 11s come all the way down to the bottom, then you start on your 15s again, and you keep going. So I'm going to move on to a piece I've got here where I've done a few more, and you can see now this ridge. So on the spiral it's sort of like that, but on the flat, when I say flat, it's cut off. It's half a spiral effectively. This is quite a tight spiral. So you'd keep going for as long as you want. You can make this into a bracelet. You can actually, if you just do one, make some really funky little rings. They work really well. Basically, instead of starting another spiral, go down to just the 15s and carry on all the way around enough for a shank, and then match them up on the other side, and then you're going to have a funky little ring, which are really great fun. Very comfy to wear. So when you've done your length, you then need to zip it up. So the whole point of this is the fact that it's got this continuous. There's no seam, there's no join, there's no clasp to add on. So we'd have to zip it up. So the way we'd zip it up is get to the same matching point. So this side, and I know this would need to be several inches longer. So this is where you get your slight flexibility. If you do that, it actually makes it quite a lot longer. So that's how you can get it over your wrist. So what you want to do is get to the same point at either side, so that this needs the 2 8s putting on it. This has got the 2 8s ready to go. So that when you take this round, bearing in mind, you know, this would be a lot longer, we can just zip these up. So we go from our 8 we've come out of, and we're going to go into our 6, which is the sticky out one on the other side. Let me just find that thread to pull. And then you go back across the same way as you would do with ordinary flat peyote. You're just going to zip up the 2 sides, just going into all the sticky outy beads. You just need to make sure you're in the right place for the sticky outy. Get that thread out of the way. So as I pull that tighter, that's going to actually merge into the right place. So my next sticky outy is that 11. And can you see it sort of starting to form? So you've come out of there. We know that's not a sticky outy. So our next sticky outy is that 8. Not that 8. See how easy it is to do? The next sticky outy, it still works. Whatever you've come out of, that should be your next sticky outy on the other side. So it actually follows that same rule as to how you can keep it even. So you come out of that one, back into that one. Obviously when you've got a full width bracelet, it's easier to marry them up, but it's exactly the same principle. You've always got your 3 across, everything else matches. So we're going through that sticky uppy. These actually make really good beads that you can put on. So we've come out of that one, then we're going to go into that one on that side. The last couple to do. One more on this side, come here, stick up. That's better. Now that's our stopper bead, which we don't want. We want that one there, which is the end of that row. And then you've completely zipped up your bracelet without having any seam. If you get rid of your stopper bead and sew that thread in, you've then got a piece where all the joins are the same, so you can have a very strange little thing. But on this one, if we go to this one, like I say, I couldn't even tell you without minutely examining it on the back to see if I can see where the thread stopped. I wouldn't be able to tell you which is the start, where's the finish, or where any of it is, because they're all identical. So that's how you sew it up. Obviously you've got more length than is in there, but that does make quite a nice little interesting bead that you can stick on something. I just want to show you, just going to go down, if you have a look at that one for a minute. What it looks like if you put a clasp on. So where we've married up the two ends, instead of, so you've got all your length there, so instead of marrying it up, what you're doing is graduating. So bear in mind the rows go like that, so you're decreasing each time to finish these rows so that you've got a straight edge, because your rows are at a diagonal. So you do a straight edge there and a straight edge there. If we wanted to marry them up, we'd have done that and they'd have matched, and you could do a bangle. But I've straightened them up and added a clasp on, and it will work both ways, but that's if you want to put a clasp on. It just looks a little bit different. And again, you don't have to have the 6 O's, you can change them. These are dragon scale beads. The choice is yours, how you want to do it. And this one, you'll notice this one is a little bit wider. That's because I've got 2 11s. I said before, you could increase the number of 11s. So just by having 2 11s, if I pull this one over, you can see the difference. So this is a lot tighter, this is a lot more spread out. And also you can have left and right hand in this as well, as you can see from these. So that's how you make your bangle, your flat Cellini bangle, using your even count peyote, purely to save on the fiddly bits that you get with odd count flat peyote. So now we're going to go on to your next chapter. So in this chapter, we're going to have another look at the flat Cellini, but we're going to reverse it. So in the blue and white and silver bracelet, this is reversed every time. Now you can do this reversing with any of the styles we've done, with the clockwise, anti-clockwise, with the spirals. You can reverse it every time if you want. Every time you get to that point, you can flick it back to the other way, get to that point again, flick it back. And that's basically what we've done with this. Now it looks a lot wider for a start, which it is, but also a lot flatter than we've done before. So there's a few things that are different. For a start, we've got 2 6s going through the middle. So that automatically spreads that ridge out, because you've got a double row of the 6s, so it's not held quite so tightly. And the other thing is, I've only got the 3 sizes of beads. I've not got the 15s. Now the 15s are what really cinch it is, because they're tiny compared to the others, especially compared to the 6s. So where you've got the blue and white beads, they're both an 11. So all that gives you, still using the Cellini technique, you're still using the size of bead to give you texture, but it's not as compressed as if you'd have the 15s in. And the other thing is, we're starting with more beads, so we've got more of the 11s to begin with, so it's automatically, it's spread out in the small bits, for want of a better word, and it's spread out in the bigger bits. So the dark blue that you can see there is just single, but that's only the 8s. Everything else has almost doubled. So we're starting off, again, because it's flat, I'm using even count peyote for the sheer ease of the way the stitch works. So we've got 2, 4, 6, that should have 7 on it. Then now, and everyone's going, hang on a minute, she said even, it is. Then we've got the 2 for the 8s, and then we've got 3 of the 6s. So overall, we've got an even count. It doesn't matter that there's 3 there and there's 7 there. The total number is even. So it will give you that ease of turning. So we're going to do a few rows so you can see the difference. So again, we're going to start now. Because we want to do double rows, we're going to turn around and we're going to do a 6 is our next one. So it kind of becomes a bit difficult when you think about it. So you're starting with a 6. It's only that end bit that's difficult. If you look on the finished piece, you've got 2 6s at the end of each point, for want of a better word, at the end of each row. So we've come out of a 6, we're going to add another 6 in. Okay, so now we've got our 8. We're going to add our 8 in. Whoops, I've gone through 2 there. So we'll come out of our 8, we're going to pick up our 8, and we're going through that 11. This is going to sit really awkwardly. I keep pushing your stop bead down. So we've come out of our 11, pick up an 11. Go in, pick up our 11 and go in, pick up our 11 and go in through that last 11. So even though we have an odd number of our 11 beads, because it's even, we've got to this point. That one's the stopper bead. So we're now going to go back up in the same manner. So you keep going up and down until you've got your complete row of your 6s. So I'm going to fetch that one in. So we started here, and then we've gone along, and we've now got our complete row of 6s. There we go. Ready to go back down again. So we want to have our 6s coming in this direction now. So I started with the blue. As I've added the 11s in from the other side, I've picked up the whites. That just gives you that triangle of colour in between each of the rows of your sixes. So we know we need 2 sixes at the top, because each row, a bit like with the 15s we saw earlier, if you're doing 3, then you need 3 across there. If you're doing 4, you need 4 across there. So we know we're doing 2, so we want 2 across there, so we're going to fetch him down. But we've come out of that one, so we need to pick another one up. Now this is where it gets difficult. That's the next one. Okay, so it sort of gives you a pause sometimes, because I'm like, oh, hang on a minute, it's not right. That one hasn't been cinched in yet, but your next one is your 8. So you've come out of your 6, pick up a 6. So you're doing it twice. So pick up that 6, you're coming out of your 8, pick up your 8, you're coming out of your 11, so pick up your 11. The more different sizes of beads you have, and the more of the 15s that you have, the slower it will be. Because this has got bigger beads and you've only gone down to an 11, this will grow a lot quicker than one of the others will, but you're still getting that effect. It really does depend what you want. So we're going away, so it's the bead we're coming towards that we want to check. So and make sure there's no gap, pull it tight. Still works, the same principles still work. So pick up your white, go through, make sure it doesn't catch. Pick up your white, go through. We're now wanting our 8 next, so pick up your black, go through. You now want your 6 next, so pick up your gold, go through, and again pick up your gold and go through. Now we've got our 2 that we need on our end row, so the next one will be our 8. So we're going to come back down that line and we're going to pick up our 8, go in through our 6, pick up our 6, come out of a 6, pick up a 6, and again you've got a big jump here, so make sure it's very easy to skip past that first gap on all of them whenever you've got that big jump. There might not sound a lot of difference between that size bead and that size bead. Right, straight away I can see I've picked up the wrong bead, because that line should be black. So it's a good indication to know you've come out of a black, you should be picking up a black. If you look at that, you could reverse back up there, but if you look at that, that should tell you straight away that you've got the wrong bead. So always be aware of little bits like that. If it doesn't look in the right place, then it's probably not in the right place. So I've come out of my white, pick up a white, and come out of a white and go into that last one. Turn round, so we're now going for the bead we're going towards. And again, they should be open. So we're coming out. I'm going to try and keep the tension on there. Go in through that one. So note I hook that around my finger and catch it with this other finger to trap that, to try and hold the thread in a more stable position, only letting it go as I was coming towards, as the bead's coming towards the other beads. So I'm picking up a black one because I'm going into that 8 there, that black 8, and then I'm picking up a 6 because I'm going in through that 6. And you can see this is starting to sort of pull. So what will happen is this will come up and then this will graduate. So you end up with sort of that effect with this coming down the other way. So we're going to do another few rows really quickly. So we come out through a 6 and we're going into that black. So now we're back onto the blue. So we're starting the next blue triangle. So you come out of that 8, you're going to pick up that blue to come back down that right line, out of the black, into the gold, and then you start pulling this, because that is the big gap there. So to pull that tight, it's got to curl. The only way it can curl is by coming up, and it's only when you get about halfway that you really start to notice that, because it manages to stay sort of flattish till you get halfway. So we'll do another pass at that, and you'll be able to really see when it's a bigger section like this. You get a clearer view of what's going to happen than you do when they're smaller. So we're going to go last one of the whites. So we've now got that triangle completed, and we're going to go in through that black, pick up a gold, which doesn't look like there should be a gap there, but we know it should. So we're going to push that round there. So the only way for it to go is to curl, and you can see how that's curling. So when you go for the next one, that'll pull back out again. So it'll curl around this way until you've got that next row in place. So I'm going to go back through there, pick up another one, and I want to come down that row just to show you how it curls. So we're going to pick up that last 11. So when you're doing these without the 15s, you get a much wider spread because they really cinch it in. You're still getting that cup, you're still getting quite a, if you turn it sideways, you can still see that sort of bridge effect you're getting, but it's not as sharp, it's wider, and we've got more beads on, which again allows it to spread out. So now we want these to be tightened. So where that's got a big gap, I'm going to pull it. Now that's automatically pulled those below. So I then want to black, so this big hole now is going to come out of the way. Can you see how that pulls underneath? Then we want to go to, no, that's a blue, not a black. See how easy it is done, but how quick it is to once your mind learns to get into that mentality, you'll see, no, hang on, that's the wrong one straight away. There we go. That's now got that coming. So next time that goes through, those will all pull a little bit more together, and the only way it can go is up. So we're going to go down to that one, pull him away from the black because there's got to be another one in there, and then that black one goes on there, and then you turn the corner and your last black one then gets added in onto there. So again, you keep going up and down, but you're getting a much different, so that one's a lot higher, this one, as soon as you come down here, will go up there as well. So you'll end up with this sort of probably almost a centimetre deep, but it spreads out a lot more. If you have a looser tension, you'll find it's softer, but you get these gaps. So a bit like here, you get a little bit more gapping occurring. If you want the full effect, then I'm not saying really pull it, yank it, but you want a reasonable tension. If you've got that space there, once you've beaded the rest in, that will tighten up. So when you've done the length that you want to go around your wrist, you zip it up in exactly the same way as we did in the last chapter, with the just straight. So this is zigzagging, the other one's straight, but it zips up in exactly the same way. You've just got to marriage where those meet. So if we go to have a look at this bracelet again, you'll see that there's no join anywhere along there that you can find, and it's a very neat way of having a bangle on. Like I say, that's that little give, because when they curl up, it gives them that space. As soon as you spread out, it pulls it back in again, so it gives you that room to be able to push it over your wrist. So That's your reversing flat Cellini. Thank you for joining us at the JM Academy. I've been Alison Tarry and we've been learning all about advanced Cellini seed beading. Hope you've enjoyed it and will come back and join us again soon.